DreAllDay.com.
DreAllDay.com. Let's talk about tightening up your standards, or actually about just setting your standards, period. We'll talk about tightening up in the next video. Here's the thing. There's a law of science, a scientific law of thermodynamics. There are multiple laws of thermodynamics, but the second one is the law of entropy. And if you listen to my podcast, you've heard me talk about the law of entropy. If you hadn't, it's okay, because I'm explaining it to you right now. The law of entropy states that every entity, meaning a person, a society, an organization, a family, any entity, anything, is always moving into a higher and higher state of chaos. Meaning that left to its own devices, anything, a person, group, team, whatever, is always becoming more and more disorganized. So the reason why standards matter, what this has to do with standards, is that when you have standards, rules, parameters, you have certain, let's just say that, standards, rules, and parameters that everybody understands and knows that they need to live up to and espouse, then what happens is those standards act as a guardrail and a barrier against chaos and a barrier against disorganization. This is why standards matter so much. It's the higher your standards and the more consistently those standards are upheld, the less likely that you or your team or your group or your family descends into a state of disorganization or into a state of chaos or a state of complete disarray. So just think about that. If you just think about that idea and think about your family, think about families around you, think about families that you grew up with, think about people who you know, think about people you've been around who at one point they had standards. They had people around them who cared about them, who made them live up to rules, who had parameters for them, who said you can do this but you can't do that, and they held them to certain standards. Those people were held to certain standards, but then when those standards went away and they didn't have a person around them saying this is okay, that's not okay, you can do this but you can't do that, when those people went away and that person didn't have anyone holding them to a standard, what happened to that person? What happened to their life? What happened to the things they were doing to and for and with themselves? You all know the answer. I don't even have to know you or know the person that you're thinking of right now to know what happened. You all know what happened, because this happens anytime standards are removed from an organization, is chaos ensues. This is not a Dre Baldwin theory. I wish that I made this up. I didn't make it up. This is a scientific law, folks, and nobody is immune to the laws of science. The law of science, the law of entropy, says no standards, more chaos. So this is why standards matter so much. So all of you, the challenge that I'm putting out towards everybody who's watching this video is you need to really get clear on what your standards are for your life. And here's the good news about this, because some of you might be thinking about this and like, Dre, I never even considered anything like this. I don't even know what the hell I'm supposed to do with this information. I understand. So let me tell you why this is good news. Is because you can set the standards wherever you want them to be. Nobody tells you what your standards have to be. All I'm telling you, I'm actually not even telling you, I'm suggesting to you that you actually have some standards. Because when you have standards, your standards are basically your vaccine, if you will, your vaccine against chaos. And this is a vaccine that actually works. We're not even gonna get into that. But that's why you want to set standards for your life. And you can set standards, you should set standards for every area of your life that matters to you. Everything that matters, there should be standards. So if your physical fitness matters to you, you need to have standards for how physically fit you need to be. And that means, I'll get to that in a second. If your money matters, you should set standards for what you're doing with your finances. If your relationships matter, set standards for how you maintain those relationships. If your business matters to you, set standards for how your business gets run. If your physical appearance matters, set standards for your physical appearance. You can set standards for anything that you want. You can have standards for as many things as you care about. There's no upper limit to how many standards you can set. And usually the people who have the highest and most consistent standards are usually the highest and most consistent performers. This is how it works. Now that I just explained it to you, you should probably understand it. And again, don't take my word for it. Think about people who you know in your own life and see if this bears out as true. I know it does, so just think about your own life and you'll notice it. And here's the thing, standards are the being part of life. I talk about achieving in life, we talk about be, do, and have, in that order, right? Standards are the being part. That's the mindset, the spirit, the energy, the posture. That's who you are being as a person, is what your standard is. Doing is the execution of things that will make sure the standard gets upheld. So if I say my standard is I'm always going to be in great shape, that is one of my standards. That's a being, that's a mindset. The doing is I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to go outside, I'm going to run and do cardio, I'm going to drink a bunch of water, I'm going to eat fruits and vegetables. That's the doing. Everybody follow me? And the having is I actually live up to my standard, which is being in shape. So if your standard is you're going to make at least $800,000 every single year, that's your mindset. The doing are the actions that you're going to take to make sure that you're making that money. You understand that, all right, if my product costs this much money, here's how many of them I got to sell to make this much money. Based on how many products you got to sell, I got to sell some mix of this number and this number at this price in order to hit this much money. Knowing that, you know what you need to do on a daily basis, you know what actions you need to take, you know you can look at yourself at the end of a month or the end of a quarter or halfway through the year and say, all right, I'm not up to my standard right now. At this pace, I'm not going to hit my number. If this is really a standard, then that means you got to make some adjustments so that you can actually hit your numbers, so you can live up to the standard that you have set for yourself. Again, being, doing leads to having. This is why standards matter so much. And I was looking on YouTube today because I wasn't sure I had made a video on this topic yet. And I looked up my name and the word standard, and I got like 10 videos where I've talked about standards. The reason that matters so much is because the highest performing people perform not because they are more motivated or smarter or any of that than the next person, is because they have standards that they simply demand of themselves to live up to. They demanded of themselves that they're going to live up to certain standards, and then they just do it. They say this is the standard. They have they have parameters, they have rules that they give themselves, and they just live up to their own rules. That's all this is. That's all a standard is. Giving yourself rules and living up to your own rules. And isn't that easier? Let me ask you a question. Isn't it easier to live up to rules that you set for yourself than to just randomly do stuff and hope that you end up in a good space? When you think that's a better way of doing things, you tell me. But that's what I think. But if you got a better idea, you let me know in the comment section. All that said, a couple things. First of all, text me to get my daily motivation. My number is 305-384-6894. Second, my next live event called Work on Your Game Live is February 3rd and 4th in Miami. Get your ticket by going to workonyourgame.live. The link is down below in the description. This is an in-person event. There is no streaming. If you're serious about taking your game to the next level, don't try to go to a virtual event. Go to a real in-person event where you can meet real people, shake their hands in real life. All right, that's where it really goes down. And y'all want to know, that's where it really goes down. The big players, they go to events. They don't watch them on their computers. They actually physically go to the room. So be at Work on Your Game Live. Tickets at workonyourgame.live. And third, any of you interested in coaching with me, I have one coaching program. Only way you get in that program, you got to get on a call with us first. Go to workonyourgame.net/apply. Workonyourgame.net/apply. Put in you pick a time on the calendar. There's a brief application that comes up. Put your information in there because we want to know who you are and what you're about before we get on the call, so we have a frame for the conversation. We'll tell you how all that's going to go, and if you're a good fit for our program, we'll tell you what it will look like, how to get started, all of that, what you get in the program, all of that. Again, that's at workonyourgame.net/apply. Everybody work on your game. Dre all day.